Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Bible Study Minute. Today we're taking a look at Judges chapters 15 and 16. And in these chapters, we see the second portion of the life of Samson. And so in chapters 13 and 14, we saw the angel of the Lord coming to Samson's parents and giving them the message. And then in chapter 14, we got some details of Samson's life. So we got the details of Samson's wedding to a Philistine woman, and then him giving the riddle, and then we begin to see the results of what happened there. And then chapters 15 to 16 just kind of continues the narrative. And what we see from Samson is someone who really lives by a life of vengeance. He is wronged in some kind of way by the Philistines, and his response is to attack and kill them. Yet the interesting thing here is that these are opportunities orchestrated by the Lord, like we saw back in chapter 14. Unbeknownst to Samson's parents and wanting to marry this Philistine woman, the Lord was allowing such events in order to provoke the Philistines so that Samson would have an opportunity to do the things that he does in response to such situations. And God used those situations to allow Samson to be a judge over Israel. But then we see Samson later on getting into other situations where we see him with a prostitute, and then we see him with Delilah, a woman that he loves, but a woman that does not necessarily love him back, because her ultimate end is getting the money from the Philistines and seeing Samson destroyed. And so we see that exchange go back and forth several times, with him giving her fake reasons for how he'll lose his strength, and then finally giving in and giving the real reason, which was to remove the last little bit of the sign of the Nazarite vow that he had made, which was cutting his hair. Because if we go back and look at his narrative, we see that he pretty much had disregard for the Nazarite vow. We see him touching a dead body by reaching his hand into the carcass of the lion that he had killed to get some honey. Then at his wedding feast, we can probably assume that he was drinking alcohol there. And then we see this final piece, allowing his hair to be cut. So complete disregard for the three things that he was to not do under this Nazarite vow. But then we see that Samson is someone who knew the Lord. He knew that God was using him in such a way that his strength was to bring victory to Israel. Because we see this in chapter 15, after he has defeated 1,000 men with the jawbone of a donkey, and he is completely famished at this point. And he cries out to the Lord for refreshment, and he acknowledges that this victory had come by the hands of the Lord. But that's the only time that we see him crying out to the Lord, until the very end of his life, where he has been brought out at this Philistine party for their God, and then he asks God to give him vengeance one last time. And this is when the Lord returns his strength, and we see what happens there. But what we ultimately see in Samson is someone who really fulfills what we see in 1 John chapter 2, verse 16, where it talks about the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride that one takes in his possessions. That really sums up Samson's life. He took pride in his strength. He let the lust of his flesh and his eyes get the best of him, allowing him to disregard his Nazarite vow, to go after women that he didn't necessarily need to marry, that really, according to the commandments of the Lord, he should not have married or even had interest in. And what we see in Samson's life is someone that had a very complicated relationship with the Lord, but still was used by the Lord for his purposes. And that's what I want to encourage us with today as we look at Samson's life. Samson's life was far from perfect, and our lives are also far from perfect. But we need to look at Samson's life as an example of why we need to look to the cross daily, not just look to God when we need him. Because like I said, we only saw Samson crying out to God twice in these 4 chapters. And both times were when he needed God to be there for him. But we need to cry out to God daily. We need to constantly look to him for our help and strength, so that we are not taken down by the lust of our flesh, the lust of our eyes, and the pride that we take in either our life or our possessions. The pride and joy that we have needs to come from God the Father. So that's what I want to encourage you with today, is to be encouraged by the life of Samson. Because Samson is someone that God used. He's in Hebrews 11 in the hall of faith. And it's not because of who Samson was, but it's because of who God is and who God was in Samson's life. So that's all I got for now. And until next time, grace and peace.